Right, cockpit stroke cab is almost complete. Steps 9 and 10, which is the rest of the interior plus the roll cage. So there's step 9. And then you've got a little bit of the roll cage supports at the back. And then you've got step 10, which is the dashboard with the steering wheel and the roll cage itself. So that's what I've got. So I've done all the detailing on the racing seat. So you got the 2 seat belts, microset, microsol and seal. That's that. I've also put those decals on them spare Top Gun ones, and it looks a hell of a lot better. So you've got one on the upright part of the center console, you got one just in front of the gear stick, and then you've got one at the back of the gear stick, and then dress that up really nice. Not bad at all. There's a decal on that tank, so just microset, microsol and seal. And all the bits are in now. So you've got this that lever, you've got the foot pedals, and also the seat and the tank. I've also done the dashboard. So you've got the main decal, which stretches all the way around, and then you've got the speedometer decal. So a couple of applications of microsol just to get it to suck right down, and then I jabbed it with my craft knife, my scalpel, and just like got round them corners, and then that helps suck that right in. You've got the electrical triangle there. Now on the instructions it tells you to put it at an angle, so that's what I did. And then I've just picked out the panel, the actual switches and the dials. It didn't actually tell you what colour to paint those switches in, so I just went with the red, blue and green. Same as those there, I've just gone with 2 red and 2 green. But I think that looks really nice. And then the steering wheel, you've got a little tiny decal in the centre, and then I just I looked at some photos and the videos of the restoration project, and you've got like a red light there and a blue light there. And then underneath is where you glue it in. There's a little square with like some raised edges, so you just line them up to the edges. I've just used a bit of super glue. I'm going to put a bit of extra thin in there just to give it a bit of extra security in a minute, and that's all lovely and glued in. Now as far as the roll cage goes, I haven't painted it or anything. It's white on the sprue. So what I've done is I've just put it all together, bare plastic to bare plastic. I don't see the point in painting it, you know, the grey then the white. But I've glued in the rear view mirror, so that's grey with a bit of silver. And then you've got this like electrical box here, so that's just black and some silver. So all this is now ready to go onto the interior chassis. So that's where I'm sitting at the moment. Right, the roll cage has proved an absolute nightmare to get in, because on the plans, which is step 11, on there it just tells you to push it down. That's it. Doesn't tell you anything else. But it does tell you in this corner that though that little notch there is wedged in by the suspension rod arm. There's a little notch and there's a little hole in the back of there. You've got the bit of roll cage that you put in on step 9, and then you wedge it again in between the suspension coil arm and that bit of roll cage at the back. So the worst part was trying to gain it round in front of them them venting pipes. Absolute nightmare, because the X part of the roll cage sits behind the racing seat, but this part here on this corner, you've got to manoeuvre that in front of that pipe and round that little tank thing there. Same on the other side. So what I had to do is I had to get my tweezers and I had to push that back slightly without breaking the glue seal where it goes into that little cutout. So I pushed it back slightly, got the one side in front of there, and then on the other side I had to do the same again, push that back slightly with your tweezers and wedge, trying to prise that in, and it will go in after about 10-15 minutes of struggling. But once you've done that, then you've got a line, like I said on the plans there, in between that bit of the roll cage that you put in first, like that V-shaped section, and then you've got to make sure these are still loose through the hole. I mean, everything's glued underneath, obviously, and then you just pull that back slightly, get that part in, and then pull that one back slightly, and you might have to pull this back a bit as well to get them to wedge in. I haven't glued it yet because I've only just got it in. It took me about 15 minutes because one, I don't want to snap the glue joins on the roll cage, and I don't want to pop them out, and I don't want to snap them either. So when you're putting the roll cage on, just be very, very careful. That's why I didn't put the dashboard in, because I thought if I glue the dashboard in, because it tells you to glue the dashboard in before you do all this, don't do that. Put the roll cage in first. Right, I've now test fitted the dashboard onto the roll cage. So between the front poles here, the front tubes of the front part of the roll cage, you just push it in like that. You might have to stretch it out slightly. I haven't glued it in yet because you can see that I can lift that. So you've got this like rectangular C shape there, and again that just drops on that tab, and then the front part of the fascia there will glue onto that white tab there. On the other side, I don't know if you can make it out, but you can probably just see a little cutout where it sits round and encompasses the front tube of the roll cage, and also that's got a little tab as well just there that will glue onto the front of there. Again, there's step 10. It tells you to glue the dashboard in. Don't do that, because when you're trying to maneuver it round the back of there and you're stretching it out, it's going to pop out. So like I said, don't do that on step 10. Right, I've done some more work on the Supra. I'll start off with the interior cockpit. I've now put the door panels on. Now these only glue at 3 points. You got that little square tab there, you got a little square tab there, and you got a little square tab there, 3 in total. And in the bottom of the roll cage there's some little cut out notches that you just put your dropper glue in there, and just I used some tape and I just went over and then overlapped the tape, and I also had to put some tape on the underneath to hold the bottom in because it kept wanting to pop out. But the trouble is that's only where it's glued. I haven't put any glue in where it meets the roll cage because there is a little slight gap. So what I'm hoping is once I put the body shell on, it'll like hug the side of that. We'll see what happens anyway. So what I did is I painted on the inside the door panel, and I used some of the Tamiya curve tape, and then just sealed the edges with the Pledge Future, and just painted that in matte black on both sides. So that is the interior all done. So now I've gone on to the body shell, which is step 12. So basically you just glue the 2 fender wells in, one on each side, and then I've just used the masking tape, my electrical tape, to hold that in. You've got the grill, which is 2 pieces. So you glue the grill together first, and then you push that in from the underneath. And then you've got the 2 smaller grills, and then just glue on the top. And that's that done. I've also glued the spoiler together. It's just 3 parts. You've got the one edge there, the one edge there, and the middle spoiler. 2 little pinholes each side. And that's that sorted. So just going on to the plans. So that's where I put the door panels on in step 11. And then step 12 is where you put the body bits on. There's how it tells you to slip that into the underneath. Just push it down and it just meets there, so you just glue there. And then you've got the 2 fender wells, and then you've got the 2 secondary grills. And that's the bodywork all done. So now starts the bodywork. Right, primer coat's gone down on the body shell. Because if you remember from the previous update, I'd put all the fender wells on, the 3 grills, the 2 smaller ones and the big one in the middle. And so what I did is when I took tape off, I had some glue marks to take care of. And luckily the white plastic, the bare plastic, actually showed them up pretty well. So I just got my little sanding stick and just went round the edges and round on the wing there where it meets the front bumper. Same on the other side, just a few glue marks here and there. Few on the grill as well, mainly on the two small grills. But generally, I actually did quite a good job, to be honest. So I sprayed it with the grey primer, just to see if I'd missed a little bit here and there. But the primer has really brought out the detail. I mean, these little pins here on the back above the rear fender well, and the actual pins on the fender wells themselves, they come out really well. The detail is really, really nice. So what I did is, first, before I sprayed the primer, I got some masking tape and some newspaper and just masked off the inside, because I don't want any primer getting on the inside, because on the inside I'm just going to leave it the bare plastic, the bare white plastic. So that's the body shell done. I also primered the rear wing. A couple of glue marks on the underneath of the wing, so I sanded them down. Again, the bare plastic showed it up really well. And then I just primered that top and bottom. So with that being said, these two are now ready to be sprayed in the white.